Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Unschooling Lifestyle. Today, I guess every guest is special, but Kristen and I have been working on this interview for, I don't know, is it a year?
It might be a year.
Yeah,
It
maybe
might be a
about a
year.
year. So we have Kristen Harling from the Belize Worldschool Hub, which we attended earlier in on January 2024. So I did my reflections on that. But this interview, we're going to talk about her experience in Belize, how she got there, and then what has come out of her life there, in Belize for, I think, almost, you're going on 10 years, I think, right?
Yes,
Oh
indeed.
my goodness. I love that. So, welcome, Christine. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I am doing great. Um, yeah, enjoying some nice weather today.
I know I see the breeze. I see the breeze, though, the movement of nature back behind you. So I really like that. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's get started for just a quick on the beginning. So tell me where you're from in the US, and then how you decided to move to Belize, to say I'm out of here, and when too.
Right. Um, so I am originally from South Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
and I spent extensive amounts of time also in Indiana, Colorado, and North Carolina. But I had returned back to South Carolina, was also the last place that I lived before I moved down here. And I first discovered Belize I came down here in 1996 as a college student. I did a
Okay.
semester abroad here through the School for International Training, and I fell in love with, I mean, everything here. It was, I mean, this is, college is when it is that time in your life where everything is just, and so I reflecting back in later years, I think that part of it was that it was a place where I was able to fall in love with myself, and I think that is a part of why it really hit me
Oh,
so deeply, because I
yes.
discovered a lot about who I am. I was very blessed to have an incredible academic director who ensured that we had a full understanding of like big global impact issues, how financial entities and global politics affect life in the what is essentially the global south, even though technically it's not, but in effectively in the global south. And so it was very eye opening. It was very exciting. It was very mind expanding. And so I really just fell in love with it. I cried the day that I went back. I had been here for 3.5 months. And on the day that I returned, I cried multiple times and I was not ready to go back. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah. And then I was here for the spring semester for the dry season, and I went back to college. I had one more year of college, so my senior year, and I cried again when I went back to campus because the other bit was that this was a very much an experiential learning program, right? So we were going camping. We camped for like 2 months, which is wild to me now at almost 50. The thought of camping in Belize for 2 straight months is
Yes,
bananas.
honestly, that sounds very intimidating for me as well, so
Over the top. Yeah, it was so. Anyway, I that's sort of how I discovered Belize. I came back here several times. I actually tried to move back here after I graduated from college, and that's a whole other story that
it
didn't
wasn't
go
the
quite
time.
exactly. It didn't go quite correctly. So that's when I ended up back in Colorado, and I had my first two children, and then moved back to the East Coast, lived in North Carolina for a while, moved back to South Carolina, had the second two children. And at that point, um, Lulu was born in 2013. And so in 2014, I was not. I was not doing super well. I was
Mm-hmm.
almost 40 and had two teenagers and two babies.
Wow.
And yeah, it was tough. And we just a lot of it was my oldest and I sitting down and really talking about, and he had at that point been down here several times,
Okay.
and Rain had also been down here several times, and so we just made the decision that I was running a cloth diaper service, and we made the decision that I was gonna sell the business, sell the car, sell the house, and move down here.
Yeah.
And so we moved down here, and we made up a big business plan for what we wanted to do here. And then we moved down in March of 2015. So it's just been a little over 9 years that we've been down here full time.
Wow. Now, before we go on, like, talk to me because you and I have, so for a little bit of background, Kristen and I connected through the World Schooling, Facebook groups, and then connected further over self-directed education, unschooling. But her background in it, it's also very important and very crucial to the way the World School Hub is run right now, because that is one of the reasons why, why we decided to invest our time, and our resources into making it happen for our family because it really aligned with the values that we have. So,
Right.
would you share with us a little bit about that experience that you have within the self-directed education movement?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a crucial component of what we do here. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, my experience, my semester here was very experiential. I mean, there were still academic components to it, but it was like nothing that I had ever
Yeah.
experienced before. And yet, I learned more in that 3 months, and I knew that. I knew that I had learned more in that 3 months than all the rest of it put together. And
Yeah.
so, um, that was in '96, and then Ruben was born in '98, and I really, going into, I knew that I wanted to have a child. I was ready to have my first child. I was still young. I was 23. I was a baby, um, but I was ready. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a mom, and as soon as he was born, I took one look and I said, "That's it. This is my life. This is what I'm doing. I am focused on this being right here."
Yeah.
And so I knew that that was going to be the center of whatever I was going to do. I don't really know that I had made any kind of real decisions about education. I think if you had asked me before he was born, you know, I
Yeah.
would have said that we were just going to find something cool or whatever. But I had no intention of staying home until he was born, and then that was that.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So anyway, we I got deeply involved in La Leche League, and there were a number of people in La Leche League. La Leche League is like a little radicalization corner.
Yeah, it's
It's,
interesting though because Dana
it's
Martin, who I did my one of my first advocacy and mentorship program into unschooling, started at La Leche League too. She was a
yeah,
mentor, so it's interesting you mentioned La Leche League though. That's
yeah.
amazing.
I was having a home birth partly because of what I had seen with birthing down here,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was having a home birth, and the midwife required us. She said that was one of the requirements of home birth was that you go to a La Leche League meeting. And I was living in Colorado, and I knew no one other than my in-laws. It was not a great experience. So I needed friends anyway. As a new mom, I needed community, and so this
Yeah.
is where I first began to sort of get exposed to all these different ideas and education that you're not aware of unless you're in that world. And
Yes.
so this is where I learned about unschooling. This was my first exposure to Sudbury schools. Alpine Valley, just
Mm-hmm.
north of Denver, had just opened up right around the time that Ruben was born. And so I was hearing little whispers about what, oh, Alpine Valley's so weird. What are they doing over there? And so I just kind of was keeping my options open, and I eventually sort of came to the conclusion that I would basically homeschool. You know, I wasn't really at a place where I was able to accept unschooling really at that time.
Yes, yes. I mean, that's a journey for sure. Yes.
It is. It is. I mean, I had all kinds of like screen restrictions. Girl, I didn't own a plastic toy. You know, I was wild. I was all the way hippied up, and so anyway, we when we moved back to the East Coast, you know, Ruben is a very incredibly, he's still very social, and as a small child it was just constant, and I'm a bit of a homebody, you know, and it was every day. It was like, mommy, go to the park, mommy, go to the park, can I have a play date, can I have a sleepover? I mean, just all the time. And
Oh, I can
eventually he
totally
started,
relate.
other people got in his ears, and he started hassling me about school. He was like, I really want to go to school, I want to go to school. And I was like, and at that point I had sort of started to come around to unschooling. You know, we were still doing a fair amount of screen limits and all kinds of weird food things,
Hmm.
um, but we had, I was moving in that direction, and I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to let you decide and you want to go to school, then I'm going to let you go to school. So he did 1 year of charter school, and he hated it, and I hated it more.
Mm,
And so, yeah, they had circle time at the beginning where all the little kids had to sit in a circle and sing
yes.
songs. And he came home and he was like, what is that? That is so dumb.
That
I was
sounds like
like,
a
bro,
girl. That's something that he would say. Cause like that, he would say that's so dumb. You know, like yeah, he would say that's something like he would say. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
yeah, Ruben wasn't having circle time. And so, so I had found a group of people who were talking about starting a Sudbury school. So I got involved with that. I helped found
Hmm.
the Katua Sudbury School in Asheville. We opened in 2005. So Ruben was 7, and Rain was, yeah, 2005. Rain was 3. So I took Rain with me. I was a full time staff.
Okay.
Well, I started out part time, I guess, but it pretty quickly I went to full time, and a lot of the original founding people sort of drifted away, and it ended where I was pretty centrally carrying the motion of it. You know, I mean, obviously it's a
Hmm.
democratically run institution, but our students leaned heavily in the younger direction, so I didn't have a lot of teenagers helping with a lot of that administrative kind of stuff, marketing,
Okay.
that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that's yeah.
So all of that was that ended up largely mine, and I did that for 5 years.
Wow.
And at that point, I made the decision. I mean, I was working 50, 60 hours a week there for, and there was
Mhm.
no pay. Um, and you know, I still had bills. So
Yeah, they don't
I
go
was
away.
trying to, you know, maneuver other things, and trying to make things happen. But it was definitely taking a toll.
Yeah.
And but I will say that it is an incredible experience. There, and I, in the process of running that school, I also went to Sudbury Valley in Massachusetts, the original one, twice, maybe 3 times.
Hmm.
Yeah, 3 times. And that is, it's just extraordinary. There's there is no other, I've been in all kinds of university campuses. There is no other intellectual, and not just intellectual, but just vibrant, creative, alive. There's no other community like that. It was amazing to
Wow.
see a group of kids be free together and be interacting and playing. And honestly, like, this is a lot of this is why I started the hub here, is because I
Yeah.
wanted my kids to have the younger ones who never they weren't alive yet,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted them to have that experience, but I knew I couldn't. And why? First of all, I had sworn to myself that I would never start another school again. But also, it just wouldn't fly here. The culture is, it's just it wouldn't. There wouldn't be sufficient numbers of students to
Okay, to make it
support
work.
it.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So we closed in 2010. I had decided I was gonna at that point I was gonna move down here, and that time it just didn't work out, and so that's when I ended up moving down to South Carolina. But um, and then after that, we unschooled. The kids did a couple of years in public school. We've done all the things.
Yeah.
So my journey has definitely been all over the place, but Sudbury is definitely where my heart is, and unschooling is really as close to that as I can get. And the reason that I enjoy Sudbury more is just the community aspect, just
Yeah.
the way that kids interact with each other and play off of each other, and they bring different interests and different skill sets, and that free flow of creative juice is a joy.
Yeah. That sounds so amazing though. So when you decide to, so what makes you decide, okay, this is it, we're moving back. We're going to do a second time and we're selling everything. What happens there?
Right. So, well, we moved down in 2015, and we
Mm-hmm.
had we had made a business plan. Um, and yeah, I don't know how much I want to get into that story. It's kind of a long story, and it's
Yeah,
also
no
kind of
worries.
sad.
No need to, no, it's okay.
But we had a business plan set up where essentially what I wanted, again, this all this all comes from this desire I have for my kids to have this experience. So essentially, what it was would be a resort that was very family and play focused.
Okay,
So
okay, okay.
I had gotten really deep into for a time into the play movement, into the
Yes.
uh, yeah, and this is where for adults and for children, this is where magic
Hmm.
happens. Play
Yes.
is, play is anything where you lose time, anything, and if it's cooking or it's art or whatever it is, if there's anything where the hours pass and you miss that, though that's play. And I firmly believe that when people play with each other, that um, they can reform bonds again. Life
Hmm.
is difficult. The world is mad stressful right now. I mean, and all the time, but right now, just mad stressful. And so, um, play gives us the opportunity to reconnect with each other. It gives us
Yes.
the opportunity to reconnect with our children, to remember who you are yourself, to remember who your kids are, who your spouse is, and oh, I remember you. I like you. I totally forgot that I liked you. That's
Hmm.
nice.
Hmm.
And so that was the idea, was that it would be a resort that would be very play focused, where we'd have, books and movies and that kind of stuff, but also like a trampoline on the water, and ways for families to engage with each other, and also allow for it to be a benefit to the greater community through uh, the kind of tours. So we ended up finding a piece of property in this small, tiny little village called Monkey River Town. You didn't go with us to Monkey River Town, did you?
No, we didn't go. Mm-mm.
Okay, so Monkey River Town is tiny, tiny, like 250 people tiny.
Oh, wow, that
Um,
is very tiny.
yes, it's very tiny, but it's extraordinarily beautiful. And so we lived there for like 2.5 years. That situation just didn't pan out. It just
Okay.
didn't. For there's a whole variety of reasons. It's a crazy long story, but um, it was it was a good experience. It is truly one of the most beautiful places on the planet. I really love taking people there now. The community was a blessing to me in many ways, and so I enjoy taking groups of people down there now, taking some
Hmm.
love into that community. It was actually a huge town um, before the big banana blight. It was the town, like one of the
Oh,
largest towns in Belize, like 6,000 people. Um, that was huge banana farms. Anyway,
wow. That is
yeah. So
that okay, that's I so this is the first time that I hear that story, but honestly that sounds
mhm.
like an amazing concept. It might have been just ahead of its time in the moment, I don't know, but it sounds like a really great place to be. I often think that the whole world is really inaccessible to children and the ability to have free play overall.
Yeah,
I did a play worker workshop and went to New York to the yard in New York. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's just about them freely, like truly being just playing and being supportive, and you can see like there's no restrictions, it's just support, and it really changes you when you as an adult. When I felt how conditioned I was to not do stuff because I was worried what other people would think or how other people would see me, so it was a really interesting dynamic for me to go through as an adult and realizing how much I need play, if not more than, my children in this particular moment, in their ages. So, yeah.
yeah. No, kids know how to play. It's no problem for them.
Yeah.
Um, Mm, yeah, it is more difficult for adults. I do think I continue to think it was an incredible idea, and really our
Yes.
limitation was just money. Honestly, like we were trying to crowdfund and raise up funds to make it happen, and I thought, oh, people will totally go for this because it's brilliant. but
All of our ideas are brilliant. Oh man, I
almost
hope it
all of them.
happens. Yes, I hope it happens at some point though. But I mean,
Yeah,
aside
I
from
don't know
that,
if at this point I don't know that I want to be in the.
did you want to
I mean,
do it?
it's still tourism. That's still tourism business, and I don't know that that's the business. I enjoy being with kids and with families, but like the day to day
Operation of it,
of
yeah.
yeah. I have a good friend here who moved here a few years before I did, and he said I want to write a book for people who want to move here. That's just called Your Idea Sucks. He said,
Oh,
because all of us do it. You move down and you have this, and that is, I see it all the time. I'm on all of these
do you
forums and
really?
pages and whatever. I see all the time. I see people with these, and I did it. I did it. I can't talk trash about it because I did the same thing. You have this idea of what you want to do in a different country, and that's madness. It's madness because you can't know until you get there. You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
know what you don't really know what you can do even until you're there. Um, but you also don't really know what needs to be done, what you want to do, how you can be, especially like coming from, being from the United States and moving to Central America,
Yes. Yeah, that's a
there's a
huge.
lot of like tricky colonialist pitfalls that you've
Yeah.
got to put some effort into avoiding. I mean, and it never ceases to be problematic, but this is we do our best. We do our best to be a gift to the community in the best way that you know how.
Yes. And I really love because that's kind of how I felt when we went there to the hub. So, for those of you that don't know, I was born in Mexico, but I have been living in Michigan for about 20 years now. And I work as a flight attendant. And one of my least favorite routes to do is the flight from Detroit to Cancun. And the reason why I don't like going there, it's because I take a lot of people that are on first time vacation in a couple of years. So it's like it's this very like pent up energy of going there and just doing whatever they want to do without taking in consideration the the country, the people that live there, and the people that serve them. And then how the hotel area, like if you think of Cancun, the hotel area, it's completely isolated from the rest of the
Yeah,
city.
it
I mean, the
is.
people that work at the hotels have to get on a bus for like 45 minutes to an hour to get to the
Yeah, I've
hotels.
taken
It's
that
a
bus.
very, yeah, and it's a very and it's a very closed up environment where they don't want you to leave that area. Like the hotel itself is that they just want you to be there. So I
Yeah,
don't really,
yes.
so being from Mexico, I have seen that culture where they go in there and try to take, um, change, as if they knew better than the people that live there. Yeah.
It is a constant fight here. And I don't know if you know, but this exact same thing is going on in Jamaica right now. I've been reading about it recently, about locals not having access to the beaches, which is
Yes, with the
wild.
cruise lines. Mm-hmm.
Here, this is here you don't that's absolutely not allowed here, and that I'm really grateful. There's a number of things that were set into place a long time ago, and some that have come to pass over the years, and then other like more cultural traditions. But the it's called, because Belize was British Commonwealth, or is
Mm-hmm.
British Commonwealth, and so it's called the Queensland. The first, like, I don't know how many feet, but there's a certain number of feet from the high tide mark that is government property, and you cannot own it, and you cannot block people from it, and that includes piers. You can't own a pier. You can build a pier, but you can't keep people off of it during the day. You can restrict access at night, for safety
Okay.
reasons, but you can't say. And that really tripped me out, because one of the first places we lived in Monkey River had a pier, and I would look out there during the day and there'd be these dudes sitting on the pier throwing nets, catching bait fish or whatever, and I was like, "Bro, what are you doing?" And they were like, "Yeah, we're catching fish." So, but it's great because it prevents exactly that thing from happening, and so you just get put into
Yeah.
place really quick, and that is important. And then, like, Hopkins is an incredibly powerful community culturally. The Garifuna people, particularly in Hopkins, this is a very strong culture. And so there's a
Yeah.
lot of effort to keep land in local
Those.
hands, to
Mm-hmm.
keep the culture strong, but it doesn't stop. The push from immigrants. I don't do the term expat. I really don't like it, but immigrants from the U.S. here, um, constantly, there's whining is the word I'm going to use, about music late. Even I've heard people complain about, the when someone dies here, they drum. I mean,
Okay.
for hours, usually the night
Yeah.
before, and then for the funeral, they drum as they carry the body up from the church up to the cemetery. It's beautiful, like, it's extraordinary. But
Mm-hmm.
somebody's gonna somebody's gonna whine about it. So
Somebody's
there's
gonna
there's
complain.
always.
There's always someone. It reminded me of I was coming back from Costa Rica one time, and there was this I had this passenger, this lady. She was older, but she was saying, I'm like, well, I'm like, how's your trip? We're like we were in Liberia, Costa Rica, so it's like a very beachy, it's a lot of beach, but it's really pretty. And she's like,
Hmm.
it was terrible. She said there was sun and there were mosquitoes and it was hot and there was no air conditioning, and she's like, it was terrible. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, did you know that this is Costa Rica? Like, did you know, like, before you came here? Like,
It's
you can't
tropical.
just come here and like and not really, take in for what it is, right? For what they have to offer you. So,
Yeah.
which is one of the reasons why I love the hub. And there are two pieces that I want to touch on here because first is that your experience with your life in Belize made our hub experience a lot better, you know.
Mm.
And it really made the difference for us because I didn't have to research all the stuff. And even though I do, I love research. Like I love finding, but once I find someone that is trustworthy in their environment, and then I know that they are looking out for the best of their community, then I don't have to worry about,
Mhm.
right? So that was one of the
Yes.
pieces for the hub that kind of like it made it easier for us to just say yes. And then the other piece was how open and very the hub was, because there was quite a few activities, but every activity was enjoyed by someone else. I think if you ask every single person, how was it your experience with the garifuna cooking, everybody will tell you something different, because
Hmm.
everyone got the opportunity to enjoy it how it was meant to be for them. And I really, really appreciated that. So I wonder, would you talk a little bit about how you came up with this concept of the World School Hub and how you put it together, and then of course the ones that are coming up for people to join if they want to.
Right. Well, I started seeing, I found the World School community after I had moved to Belize, but not long after. And I was so delighted with the discovery. I got so excited with the
Hmm.
idea of world schooling. And so, and I guess, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I started seeing things about hubs. And I just thought that would be a great idea. And again, we come back to, me wanting for my kids to have um, that experience of being with in community with other children,
Yeah.
from a similar background, from a similar kind of education type of background.
Yes.
And um, so I decided that I would start to put one together. I I made the decision that this was a thing that I could do,
Hmm.
that I could really that I could handle, that wouldn't be overwhelming like starting a school. So, a shorter experience, and then it's also not really, it's not lodging tourism kind of thing. So it's not all of that kerfuffle. And I thought, well, this is really kind of the perfect thing, right? Where I can bring kids down, and I know what an incredibly magical place this is. I've been experiencing the magic that is Belize for almost 30 years. And
Yeah.
I've watched the children experience all these. And the other thing was that it also gave us the opportunity to go and do some things that we've never been able to do here since we moved here. And
Hmm.
so, like going up to the caves, and it just gave, so it was really, the more I thought about it, it was really a no-brainer. And I have the mind for logistical stuff. I just do. This is a skill set that I have. I also know, like you said, it's important to me to that I have a. Um, it's helpful that I have so much life experience here, and that I know who most of the
Yes.
guides are here. That I
Hmm.
know where, because when you research, like, you don't always know, right? You can't always
Yeah.
tell, like, what is website marketing and what is authentically a really good experience.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I knew that there would be no problem with me filling up the time. And in fact, when I originally set it up, I set it up with 4 days a week of activities, and
Okay.
for a whole month. And I mean to tell you, I had no problem filling that. I had no problem filling up 4 days a week for 4 weeks
Yeah,
with
that
activities.
sounds unsustainable for on my end.
Yeah, exactly. That is what I decided. I was like, no, that is, the more I looked at it and the more I thought about it, I thought that's just going to be too much.
Yes.
It's going to be too much for me, and it's definitely going to be too much for someone who is traveling. And so I made the decision to dial it back a little. I cut out. It was difficult to cut out a lot of the activities, but I did it. I cut out a lot of stuff, and last year we had, or this year rather, this year we had 2 days a week of like unschool co-op, and that didn't really go off the way that I. It just didn't. It wasn't a workable thing. Um, it didn't work right with the way that the community was going, and so what I decided would work better would be, so this next January we'll have 2 days a week of activities and then 1 day a week of a family gathering where
Mhm.
everyone in the family comes together and we just hang out, where I don't have, to organize transportation and the tours and the guides and
Yeah.
all that stuff, where we just come together and we just hang out. And so that's the plan. It's going to just continue to be an evolving thing, but I knew that this was going to be a great experience for kids.
It
And
really
I
was
also,
so.
knowing that, I'm so glad. I just also, I have, Ruben is 25 now, and so I've got 25 years of parenting experience. I've got all the flavors of neurodivergent in our house. We have just I feel really well qualified to take out a group of kids, whether their parents come or not. And some of the parents decided to come, and some of the parents didn't.
Mhm.
And whatever the case, I feel like I have the logistical abilities to put it together, and then I
Yes.
know the guides that are going to make sure that everyone has fun. And I'm working through explaining neurodivergence to our guides here. It's not a well
Okay.
understood term here, but we're working with it, and for the most, but Belizeans are so laid back, and so it just isn't. Everybody's fine. They're
Yes.
like, oh, the kid needs to sit for a while. Okay, whatever, you know, it's fine.
I
It's just
really, I
okay.
mean, honestly, yeah, we had a great experience though. I mean, I really enjoyed like their experience. Anthony watched, once we went fishing, he just watched the person, like do the whole fish thing, and it was amazing that he said, you want to help? And he's actually, he asked, actually, can I help? Can I do it? And he said, yeah, sure, come over here. And then when Ari was in the water, we were in the snorkel, and
Hmm.
he's like, just let me do my thing. And I'm like, we're in the middle of the ocean. Like, how can I just let you do your thing? But he
Yeah.
took him, he grabbed his little life vest and he just dragged him around. He didn't put his face in the water, but there was no pressure to say, well, you should put your face in the water, because there was a lot of fish. So I was trailing behind him with grabbing the life vest too. So we both had a hand on him, but I kept my distance, which was essentially what he wanted from me. He was like, let me do my
Hmm.
thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let you do your thing, but I also have to try to do my thing here, so we
Hmm.
work it out. But everyone's needs were met at that point where he felt he had the autonomy, like he just went on his own, right? But I
Yeah.
was having a hard time with that. But
Oh
he
yeah.
took him. He just took him, and he
Yeah. Yeah.
it was
No,
just really,
everyone.
yeah, it was super laid back for
People
for everyone.
people raise each other's children here, and children have. This is one of the things that I really wanted for my kids in moving here. Is, because I moved here ultimately because I wanted to live here, and I've always wanted to live here. But also, I knew what a great place this is. Children have so much autonomy. Sometimes it's a little far, honestly, but they have, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
personal preference thing, I'm sure. Um, but kids have a lot of freedom to play and wander outside, and the weather's always nice. I mean, unless it's rainy, and it rarely rains all
Yeah.
day. So
Yeah.
it's just, there's so much, and even if it's raining, it's not cold ever. So they just have so much freedom to be. Uh, uh, you know, my kids have had, the two youngers have had unlimited electronics access their whole lives, and they've never, so we've never had those battles, and I know that that helps. I know that makes a huge difference, but they spend a ton of time outside. And we're talking about two neurodivergent kids in different ways, neurodivergent. And both of them are great with, knowing when they need to step away, knowing when they, as they say, when they need to touch grass, you know?
Yes.
And
And what a gift
uh,
it is, to be able to
yeah,
have that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
people
is,
absolutely watch out for your children here, like nobody's gonna ignore that, a child who needs assistance.
yeah, that's amazing though. So so I know you have two more hubs coming up. Can you share
Yes.
the dates and the length of them for us?
Yes. August. I'm just gonna check this.
Yes.
I have a 2 week one coming up in August, and this one is a little bit different. For the one in August, um, I've got um, different activities for each day, and so
Mm-hmm.
people can choose. So essentially, you're
It's like a la
paying
carte.
me. Yeah, you can pick and choose which activities you want. Essentially, you're paying me to organize, to do the logistical organizing. So whichever there's a it's like a menu, you're like at a restaurant, and so there's a few things each day. Whichever one you choose, I will do the organizing of the transportation and any tour guides that are needed, whatever, that kind of stuff. But then the people participating will pay those guides directly. So obviously I'm not going to be, because I can't be multiple places at once, so
Mm-hmm.
I will not be attending all of those things, although I will be available at all times and attending for some of them. Um, and then we're also going to have a couple of like family gathering where everyone will get together, like dinner, drumming kind of stuff, cultural things. So that one is August for until the 24th.
Okay.
August the 4th to the 24th. So that's just a 2 week hub. So it's a minimal upfront cost just for organizing and the dinners and drumming and that kind of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
then, so then you can also decide, like, you can make not just what you want to do decisions, but also like financial decisions, like some tours are a lot more expensive than others. So if somebody wanted to come down and experience some things, and then also just, and you can take days off, there's just things available. So it's a sort of strewing of activities, and you can choose what you want. And then I
Yeah.
have the next one is similar to what we did with y'all this January,
Yes. It's the month
and
long
that
one,
will
right?
be, what's up?
It's the one that
Month
it's a
long.
month long. Yeah.
Yeah, so this one is a month long. I started a little bit later. I felt like we were a little too close to Christmas last year.
Okay.
So this one starts on the 19th of January and goes to the 14th of February. So the last thing that is offered is Valentine's Day babysitting at my house. So, for parents who want to go out for Valentine's Day, we have some lovely restaurants here, and Rain and I will have a pile of children, um, you know,
I love
eating
that.
eating
I may take you
Valentine's
up on
sugar
that.
things.
I may take you up on that. That's so amazing, though. So those are the two hubs planned, but obviously these are very specific dates, and the tours have already kind of been like laid out and chosen. But I know you're also doing, since you have long term experience living in Belize now, and you're getting to know the people that do the tours, you're also curating like individual experiences for people that are trying to come to Belize, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to sit down and chat with. It can be a group, a family. So I know that there's some like world schooling groups that travel together.
Yes.
I'm happy to talk with people like that, or other kinds of groups, or just large families, or even solo travelers. I think that there's a lot of value in how much experience I have here, and
Oh,
understanding like
yes.
what is not only what is good, but also like what is safe. If you're LGBTQ plus, like what places are friendly to you. What guides are best if you do have neurodivergent kids. If you're a woman traveling alone, um, you know what things are and aren't safe, and what things do you need to keep your eyes out for. And so I'm happy to sit with any group or individual and get an idea of, basically I get an idea of what they want, what their travel style is, what they're interested in. Do they want to be
Yes.
busy? You want to go every day? Because some people really dig that. Some people, I need days, multiple days of just sit
Yes.
down and be
I do
quiet.
too, though. I do too. Any trips longer than 4 days, we actually need a day to like not leave our accommodations wherever we are. Like we need a day to stay inside for sure.
Yeah,
But I love what you said about, and I really think this is important because you can read all the blogs, and everybody, obviously, a blog post has been reading from someone else's experience, from someone else's point of view. But
yeah.
when I was researching Belize, there was a lot of posts that were saying about women traveling alone. And I honestly, when my husband was like, because we had researched Belize before, prior
Hmm.
to the hub. So when he would bring it up, I would be like, no, what I've read so far is that it's just not a safe place for women to be alone. So I don't really want to do it. And then
Hmm.
eventually we came to know you, and then we got to learn about Belize, and it made a big difference. And when I was there, at least in the area that we were,
Hmm.
I didn't feel unsafe, at
Yeah,
all, but it really made it different that I knew someone there. So
yeah,
it really takes, to speak to someone that has lived there, that has really experienced it beyond just your one time, before
yeah.
a one time thing. It could really make or break your trip, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, just somebody who knows some of the cool places to go that you may or may not
Yes.
read about. Or yeah, I mean, the safety issue is, I mean, and it's I
But
can
that's
give
everywhere too,
insights about, yeah, no, it certainly is, but I can give insights about culture. Like here, men, especially when they've been drinking here, very, very forward. Hey, baby. I mean, I'm hollering. Wild. It's wild. And when you're from the US, you're like not used to that, right? Because
No,
men had to stop. Um, Men had to stop doing that up there. But it's very common here. But for the most part, 99 times out of 100, they're harmless. They're just making
that
noise.
is intense.
And
Okay,
I've
hold on.
never, I
Are
walk
you
around
there?
at night. It drives my friends crazy. Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. I'm here. Oh, do it.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. That sounds
Did
good.
it
I'll
cut
see
out?
how this goes. No, I think it's just it says my internet connection was not very stable. So it's definitely like me,
Yeah,
but
it said that on my screen too. So I'm not sure if that was you or if that was me.
yeah, I don't know. It's okay though, but
Mhm.
we'll finish up by saying, so what is the best way to contact you? So you're working, so we have the two hubs, and I'll recap because we had a technical issue here. So we have two hubs, a 2 week one in August, a month long one in January. But
Yes.
also, like Kristen said, if you're a World School group with several families, she can help you plan your experience over here. So, what's the easiest way for people to contact you? And also, we'll have all of those details on the show notes as well. So,
Right. So I am on. I can be reached on Messenger. Um, at Kristen Harling is my Facebook, and I can also be reached on WhatsApp. Belize runs on WhatsApp. Belize would die without WhatsApp.
Yes.
And Mexico, same thing.
Yes,
Mm,
totally.
yeah. I also have a Discord. My email is kristenharling@gmail, and I will. I'll send you like the link to my WhatsApp so that you
Okay.
can, because that's the easiest way. I find I don't know what it is, but I don't know. Sometimes I have trouble with like different country codes, so I just send people the. Um,
Oh, the one for you so they can find you instead of you finding them. Yeah.
yes.
I know there's many different codes though. So,
Yep.
um, yeah. So, but we definitely will put all those links for you out there. But for anyone that's interesting, do reach out. Honestly, it was probably one of it was our first hub that we went to, but making the connection with Kristen and knowing that she had experience from the country really made our decision easier because I had talked to several people of I've been wanting to join a hub for quite a while now,
Hmm.
and it just, I mean, for one way or another, it didn't pan out, right? But
Right.
we had a great time, so we're hoping to go back. It's hard for us to commit like that far in advance, but we
Mhm.
are hoping to go back. But everyone, thank you so much for listening to us. So I hope this was helpful so you guys can visit Belize and utilize Kristen's extensive knowledge about the area and how you can best utilize your time. I mean, that's just really amazing though. So thank you, Kristen, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you too, love. It was good to talk to you again.
It was so good to talk to you. And for everyone out there, please remember that your time is precious. I hope you're making it count. See you later. Thank you.
Bye bye.